what is the problem I'm trying to solve? So you as a business owner or a business, you're obviously trying to solve something. And so if you were able to then identify what that something is and then work out who that would be for, then you could potentially, even as a really lean prototype, go out to customers and say, hey, I'm thinking about this thing. Would it actually solve your problem? And then further extrapolating that, even doing, and I'm a big advocate for storyboards. I believe that if you would then be able to identify your customer and then step through the process that they would go to use to find out your product, to then use your product, and then become an advocate, let's say, of your product, what would that story look like?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mind to Lead podcast. And today I am sat with the beautiful Rebecca Howse. Rebecca, amazing to have you here today.
Hi guys, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. Now, you and I go back a long way. We've worked with each other for, I'm going to say like almost 4 years now, like on and off. You know, obviously when I was in recruitment, I think I've helped you secure a job. And I can't remember, it goes back so far. But for the audience that don't know who you are, could you just give a little bit of an introduction to who is Rebecca, what your journey's been, and what's led you to this point in your life today?
Yeah, so yes, I'm Rebecca Howse. I've been working in human-centered design for my whole career, so it's spanning nearly 18 years now. So it started in advertising and marketing and has gone into more of the product and product management side of things of late. But ultimately, it's always been about the customer. So making sure that we look at, you know, what are their problems, how do we solve for them, and ultimately design or deliver, both design and deliver a really awesome experience that helps solve those problems for them. So my career has, as I said, has been going on a lot of different tangents, but of late has now sort of stepped into more of the I guess the coaching and developing side of things to different businesses, sort of taking what I've learned over the years, and now I'm helping provide that sort of insight and help businesses grow from that perspective. Just really getting them to understand the customer. So I'm still working within a business, but I'm also going out and doing a lot of freelancey kind of things these days. That's been really exciting.
Amazing. And you are currently working at Uni Super. That's correct, isn't it? Your recent job. Perfect. Yeah. So what have you been brought in to do? So obviously Uni Super being, you know, one of the big corporates. What's your role there? Are you leading a team right now? What are you sort of doing day to day in your current position?
So the current position has been, it's a new CX team of the last few years. So my role has been to come in and look at a compliance piece from a service design perspective. So helping them, the team sort of be compliant, but also making sure that we put customers first. So making sure that throughout that journey that we're not just complying for compliance sake, to make sure that we're actually prioritizing and do the best things for the customer first. And then obviously not make the operational side of things horrendous as well. So making sure that end-to-end customer, but also back-end processes and are all completely prioritized as well. So it's a huge piece of work. I hadn't realized how big this compliance piece was. But that's been my role, to come in and help advocate for the customer.
Amazing. Well, if anyone can do it, I have full confidence that that's going to be you. But you've mentioned there a few times now the customer experience, which is clearly a passion of yours. And I remember the first time I met you, you were more definitely centered around that whole human-centered design piece. So people might be listening to this now who aren't in technology or digital. Could you just explain in, like, I guess, layman terms, what do you mean by human-centered design? Like, if you could explain it really simply, what is it?
It really is putting the heart at everything that we do, the customer, so the human elements. So basically, and you probably have experienced it in the past, where sometimes when you're working in a team, they go to solution-based and they go and think, oh, okay, there's this new tech that we've got to go and deliver. We've got to stay on the front foot and we've got to deliver this new thing. I remember back in the day when Facebook came about, and it was like, oh, we need to be on Facebook. I was like, why? Where are your customers?
Yeah.
And so that always stayed in my mind as being like, why? Like, what is it? What are we trying to do for our customers? Who is your customer, and what are their problems? So ultimately, that's what human-centered design is. So, you know, my customers, my clients, the companies that I work for were always just asking, so what's the customer problem in this?
Yeah.
And what are we trying to solve? What problem are we trying to solve? And this piece of work that I'm working on right now is exactly that. Like, I'm probably asking that question more and more, and they're like, but it's just compliance. We've just got to comply. But they're starting to shift their understanding of, oh, okay, that's going to help prioritize that over that, because we ultimately need to comply for the customer.
Yeah, perfect. And this is exactly why I wanted to get you on the podcast, because there's lots of people I'm speaking to right now who are too solution focused. They're thinking, I need to innovate, I need to pivot my business, I need to sort of have an online strategy and all these things. And they're sort of very, very focused on that. But like you just said then beautifully, they're not thinking about the end customer. And I think at the end of the day, if you don't get that piece right, you could have the best marketing strategy, that you could have, you know, the best logo, business name, but if you are not providing a fantastic customer experience, your business will not grow, it will not thrive, and it will not be around in 5 years' time. So I think that's a really, really powerful message for anyone at the moment who is thinking about pivoting and, you know, what is needed in the marketplace right now. And I would love to pick your brain, because obviously we are living through very uncertain, unprecedented times. How should people go about, like, even thinking about marketing themselves and speaking to their customers? What sort of things do you do to reach out to your customers?
So how businesses would be able to look after themselves and make sure that they are, you know, differentiating themselves in the market is really working out. I mean, there's a lot of different methodologies and frameworks that you can use, but even the most basic thing is just to sort of go, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? So you as a business owner or a business, you're obviously trying to solve something. And so if you were able to then identify what that something is and then work out who that would be for, then you could potentially, even as a really lean prototype, go out to customers and say, hey, I'm thinking about this thing. Would it actually solve your problem? And then further extrapolating that, even doing, and I'm a big advocate for storyboards. I believe that if you would then be able to identify your customer and then step through the process that they would go to use to find out your product, to then use your product, and then become an advocate, let's say, of your product, what would that story look like? So being able to sort of go through that identifies the different locations that your customer might be in, the touch points. Are they online? Are they in bricks and mortar? What problem are they trying to solve with your product? And then if you're able to really nail that, then that becomes your value prop. Then you're able to go, I've got this amazing story. It's your elevator pitch, because they've been able to go through and actually refine it and really target the who, the what, and how that's going to solve it. So big advocate for a storyboard. Yeah. It's become a powerful tool. And I actually, interestingly enough, last year I actually went along and so it was more a small business sort of seminar, and we were talking about like the tips and tricks that I would recommend. And it was just fascinating to see that something I use every day with when I'm even trying to articulate an idea to, stakeholders and things, it enabled me to sort of step back and go, well, that is a perfect template for a startup. Like, absolutely, because you're trying to work out who your person is and then be able to tell a story. And then it became an elevator pitch. So it was like anybody could use this. It's just a communication tool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's amazing. I think that's really, really powerful. So if someone's listening to this right now and they really want to get a better grasp and understanding of their customers, what would be like the first step of creating the storyboard? Like how does that process even look? Because I know a lot of people are very visual, so I'm trying to like visualize how to go about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'd start off with, a good old whiteboard. I love a good whiteboard, and just to sort of go, okay, well, again, go back to like, what is the thing that I'm trying to provide my customers. So and then go back to what is a problem I'm trying to solve, and then who is it for? So then you're starting going, well, for instance, if I'm just going to use an example of right now, like a lot of businesses are realizing they're not digital, and how do they go digital? They're probably going, oh, I need this website, or I need this huge elaborate piece of tech. And it's like, well, come on, just strip it back a bit and work out who are your customers right now. So then you're able to go, well, if it's, say, for instance, like a retail store right now, like who are their customers, and are they actually online? Therefore, do you need a website? So it's starting to sort of go back, keep coming back to where are my customers? What are their sort of demographic? And it's kind of like you could then start going, okay, if I'm the demographic of my new business, which tends not to be the case. So actually I shouldn't use that as an example, because we as the business owner are not necessarily the customers. But let's say I am in that case, I could then go, okay, well, what do I do that product can fulfill that need for? So solve the problem. I need to go to X, so I need this problem to solve that, or this thing to solve that. So I kind of like, I love really being quite visual, like you said, sort of going, okay, well, what does this person look like? What does the day in the life of that person look like? And what affects them? So like emotionally, physically, and then you start to sort of build like almost like a persona of that customer type, to then be able to go, well, then my product or service, does it actually help any of those unmet needs that they've got? And okay, cool. Well, then that problem is solved by this. But then go out to, say, those types of customers and, have a good chat. Like, I highly recommend, like, it doesn't matter what I think, it doesn't matter what I say, it's about like what my customers think. So if I can go out and go, hey, I've got this problem, like I said before, I've got this solution that I might be able to solve that problem with, validate it with your customers, start to sort of see, because then you can start to refine like your actual value prop, because then you'll be able to say, oh, well, actually that thing is way too extreme for them at the moment. Maybe it's just a really a very lean sort of way I could actually approach it, because then it actually reduces the cost overhead. Like, for instance, if I don't need a website and I just need an X that doesn't cost as much, maybe I could just go down that path instead.
Yeah, I think that's such powerful advice. And I'm sat here now just like nodding my head, because I think this is where so many entrepreneurs go wrong, and where I've definitely gone wrong in the past, is they get so excited and they think that they're going to build a website or build an app and the customers will come. And that does not happen, And I think that we do live in a world where perhaps sells the features and the benefits, but actually don't sell the results. And that is what people are looking for. They're looking for results. And people are definitely more, skeptical nowadays. There's lots of information out there, lots of free information out there. And how is your product different? How is your product? What result does your product give to people? I think that's really, really powerful advice. But you've worked a lot of this. Yeah.
I was just going to say on that point exactly, when you start to go, well, what do I do differently to my customers? Because that is key. You need to do product analysis. Like, you need to see what you're doing. Like, if you're competing with exactly the same types of products out there, you will have something that's different, because you personally are different. So you will have that different flavor on it. Your personality might be the style that might be the differentiator. You might, like doing a product comparison or service comparison definitely helps you then work out, okay, if I'm completely the same as everybody else, what's my differentiator?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having a USP is so important. Especially now to sort of stand out, because there's a lot of, businesses, out there at the moment, but, why are you different? I absolutely love that. And you also mentioned as well that you've worked a lot in the startup space. So apart from people not prioritizing to understand their customers, is there anything else that you've sort of seen that new business owners and entrepreneurs, or even not even new business owners, but big organizations, that they, because you've worked for some really big, amazing organizations as well, where are people going wrong? Do you see sort of common threads and mistakes being made?
Yes.
Don't have to be diplomatic.
Tell them that. No, I mean, I honestly think they're always the same fundamental problems, regardless if they're big or small. I think you've always got to come back, or even if it is a big thing. No, I think it's regardless. So if you're small or big, you have got one awesome thing that you're really great at. And then as you get bigger, you've got to start like having all these different products and services and stuff. And it kind of dilutes the original reason why you went out into the market in the first place. And you've got to make sure that you've got to keep coming back to or reinvent it, because as you grow, it could become a whole nother value proposition, which now has all these other new features and benefits on it. But when you start, that's the key. Like I said before, making sure that you've got the absolute differentiator that's then setting you apart, and you're solving that problem for those customers. And it's maybe just one thing, and it has to be. You have to start off with one thing, because as I said, if you go too broad too quick, you dilute it in the market. If you just are able to focus on that one thing and do it awesome, customers are going to know and understand what you're trying to sell. If you try to do all these things, they're like, so I'm not quite sure what you do. Yeah. And actual personal on my personal front, I think as I've gone through my career, I've had to realize that too, because I have quite a lot of different skill sets, and going in and being a master of everything hasn't really helped me when I've gone into job interviews. So that too in itself is like a product. I'm trying to sell myself, and I was trying to sell myself with every bells and whistles that I come with, as opposed to just sticking to the one thing and being able to say, I do this really awesome thing and you need this.
I love that. And is it funny? I was listening to something the other day. I think it was another podcast, and I can't remember the podcast, unfortunately, but it was really good. I'll try and find it. But they said that, who would you rather go to? If you had found a tumor in your brain, would you rather go to the general practitioner or the brain surgeon? Like the specialist. And as a specialist, you can actually charge more for your services. So I think that's, again, really powerful advice for anyone who's even a coach or a consultant or starting a business. Narrow down, know your market, know your customer, know what problem you're solving, go after that, and then build out from there. I think that is such powerful advice, especially now where it's so easy to kind of like come up with new ideas. We're spending a lot of time in isolation, and I've had a zillion ideas over the last sort of 6 weeks, and I'm 90 miles an hour. So it's really hard not to go, let's go for that and that. But actually it's stripping it right back, because it's quite easy to get overwhelmed, especially when you are starting a business, to go, I need to be doing everything. But actually it's just pick your niche, go for that, really solve that problem, and then build from there. I think that's such powerful advice. But let's talk to that as well, because obviously we are now Melbourne's gone into stage 4 lockdown again. So how are you dealing with it personally? I mean, I know that a lot of people I'm speaking to are really struggling this time round, but what sort of like self-care practices are you sort of putting in place to make sure that, you are looking after yourself during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely admit that this morning I probably had a little bit of a why us again, moment. But obviously this is a natural disaster, I think they're calling it now. So it's a pandemic we all need to cope with, but it's hard. It's been really hard. I must admit, my partner's been made redundant. I've moved on to a new role. So there's been obviously extra additional things that have happened through our period, which I'm sure everyone's, battling with as well. But what I've had to really do is look at that mindset of like adaptivity, because it really is just it's just another change, and it's not been easy. I'm not going to profess to be perfect at this change, but just being really positive and understanding that this is nothing I can change, that I can only change what I can control, or, control the controllable. And that's been really key for me, because it's been a roller coaster like it's been for everybody else, but I've really just had to keep focusing back on what I can control. And what I can control to that point is looking at, exercising, meditation, positive thinking and positive talk, because I know that there's been times where at the beginning, oh, why me, why this, and especially this morning. But then I stood on the beach this morning and I just, took a big deep breath in and just look, I have gratitude. I've just got this amazing things around me that this is all I can control. This funny little dog digging a hole in the sand. and I had my coffee in hand, and that's all I can control right now. And of
Yeah.
course, I was preparing mentally to come into this as well. But yeah, that's honestly what I'm. So even going back to the meditation side of things, like it's just I have not been regular with it, but I've been really trying to, have time for myself, because I think that's been, like you said before, go, go, go. Okay, now we're in lockdown. We've got all these expectations to do all these things and read a million books and listen to all these podcasts and you learn all these different courses and stuff. And I'm like, actually, hang on a minute. I just need to slow down.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the things at the beginning I was very appreciative at the beginning, because this actually forced a lot of us, crazy, entrepreneurs and, thought leaders to just slow down, because we haven't been giving ourselves time. And I really have appreciated that. Out of bad things, like I said, I always look at the positive, and the positive things have been that a lot of people have slowed down and really just taken stock, appreciating what they have, loving their own home, decorating their own home, as opposed to doing other things. So it's just been that to me has been really a good thing that's come out of this. As terrible as the situation is, some good things have come out of it.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's what people need to hear right now. Like it's okay not to be okay, and you have your moments, and I always say all feelings want to be felt, and if you just mask it and just sort of put a band-aid on it, well, that band-aid is going to start leaking, and you've just got to just feel what's there, but you can always, I guess, then choose how you want to respond, so yes, feel frustrated, feel sad, feel fed up, all of those emotions have their place, but then you always have a choice to say, okay, do I want to stay here? Or do I want to perhaps then focus on gratitude? Okay, well, there are people who are a lot worse off than me, and look at what I have, like you did this morning when you're on the beach with your coffee, the fact that you can just walk onto the beach. I mean, how amazing, and I just think it's very easy to get caught up in our own thoughts and things, and gratitude, I always say, is one of the biggest and quickest and easiest ways to get yourself out of a negative situation, because I don't care what you're going through, there is always something to appreciate, and again, it's changing the language that we use, I guess, instead of saying we're stuck indoors, we're safe indoors, all of these things that we can be doing as well. I think that's really, really powerful. And then
change the language. Change the
Yeah.
language. I've always been a true believer that even before all this, like if you say negative things all the time, you're going to manifest it. So
Yes.
I've always believed, and I know it's hard, like I don't profess this time has been easy for any of us, but you just need to keep using those positive words and positive thinking. Positive words create positive thinking, then manifest positivity around you. So yeah.
I am so with you on that. I watch every word I speak. I'm like, oh, like if sometimes I'll say, if that happens, and I go, not if, when, just subtle changes. I'm like, when, I grow my business and when this happens, and it's just manifesting these things into existence. And you can tell a lot with what's going on in someone's mind by the words they use. It's very, very interesting once you start to sort of see people's patterns. But let's talk about leadership now, because, I know you've done a lot of leading in your time as well. And what advice would you give to somebody who is sort of leading a team right now, and, they're struggling to stay motivated, let alone keep their team motivated? Any advice for leaders out there right now who are finding it challenging at this time?
Definitely the adaptive mindset is it's just really understanding that it's okay to feel not okay, and that because if you're controlling a lot of other people as well around you, you've got all their emotions as well to be managing, and it's okay to just say, I'm not okay, that I'm just having a really rough day today, for whatever reason, your kids or whatever the circumstances are. That I think that transparency and that honesty with your team, especially now, is really, really key. And I've actually heard a lot of managers and leaders that have also been feeling that this connectivity has been a good thing, because they have actually stripped back all the hierarchy, and they're actually becoming more personable in their team again. And I think maybe that's where it's been lost a bit over time, that people have been like, oh, this is my role, I just filter it down through all the people, rather than get down on the ground and remember that where you started, like you were a person, you were doing that job once before, and how did you want to be felt, reacted with, and managed and led? Like, get back and actually find out if you're doing the best job for that team member. So I think that's been a really interesting shift that I don't know if you've heard across the time, with all the different managers and leaders that are kind of saying this has really changed my approach. And I've actually remembered to come back and be more personable, be more transparent, be more honest with my team again. So that's been a really nice one. I think that and I think because I know we're in digital formats constantly, but that connectivity is probably not work related, but like just as in just how are you feeling? Like I had my boss this morning, actually my manager this morning asked me that, and it was all I needed, because I had sort of started, and I'm sure he was doing it because it's the start of lockdown 4, but it did help. Yeah, it really did. Yeah. And I went, thanks for asking, because that's all I needed. I needed that connection. I needed to know he cared, and then I could move on with my day and feel really empowered.
Yeah, such powerful advice for any leaders out there. I just think, the question, are you okay, should be asked, all the time, and it's okay to say, no, I'm not actually, like, don't think you've got to mask your feelings as well. I think the one skill that's coming out of this that's needed now more than ever is empathy. And I won't lie, I used to struggle massively with empathy, because I was like, what do you mean you're feeling sad and sorry for yourself? Get up, dust yourself off again, it's going to be okay. But I am becoming more and more understanding, because I've been struggling myself, had a few moments throughout this as well, and it's just everyone is on their own journey, everyone's doing the best they can, and if you have that approach, then you can't judge, you can't criticize. You think everybody is going through this at their own pace in their own way, and if everybody could just have some empathy and understanding and just compassion for one another right now, we will get through this, and we will rise stronger as people, as leaders, as organizations. And I think that's where the focus needs to be. But Rebecca, it's been an incredible conversation. I think that there's just been so many amazing takeaways. And look, just to impart any advice to people listening to this right now that, perhaps are really struggling to get motivated, or, or even out of work, or just not in a good place right now, sort of, where should someone start in your opinion, on the sort of self-care journey and getting themselves back into that positive mindset every day?
Yeah, definitely a routine. I can't especially right now, highly recommend a routine. Like we've got a whiteboard, and I literally I get up at time, I have a, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but like it actually made me start to go, oh, well, I haven't done that today, that wasn't good, but not curse myself or get angry at myself, but just go, at least I've done, like one specific thing that I have caught myself out not doing now in the last few months, but at the beginning I was doing, was having a lunch break, because I was sitting at the computer for 8 hours straight, and I wasn't getting up and having those breaks away from the computer. Obviously we're online constantly at the moment, and we need time out. We need time away from the screen to just take a break, and we more productively at home, which is great. However, it's also got its downfall, and the fact is we need to set those things in motion so that we have, go for a walk. We're only allowed to get out at the moment for an hour, but that hour is really critical, and getting some sunlight onto your face, getting some fresh air into your to the lungs, it's really, really critical just to get on with it. And then, doing a little bit of exercise at lunchtime, I don't know, walking up and down the hallway at the end of the day. And someone actually made a good point the other day, having ends, so a bookends at the start and the end of your day, so that you get up, it might only be 10 minutes of exercise at either end, but you're not doing work on the computer. I definitely think putting in the routine and writing it down, because visualizing it means that you then can see what you need to do. You become a bit more accountable for those actions. And I think that's helped me. So if I can impart that, a routine would be what I'd say.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I had someone ask me the other day, how's your routine changed since this all happened? I was like, well, it hasn't. I've still got up at the same time. Granted, I've had, a few mornings where I've given myself some grace and, stayed a little bit extra longer in bed or just having a coffee in bed, whatever. But as I would say, 90% of the time I've stuck to a routine. I've still exercised, I've still done my meditations, I've still read, I've still switched off in the evening and done some yoga, because I know that gives me structure, and what doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. So I love the fact that you do your whiteboard. I think that's really, really powerful, and hence why you're in a good mindset right now. You're not perfect, no one is, but you are certainly looking at this with a glass half full attitude rather than a glass half empty. And I think that's what everyone sort of, if we can do that, then we will get through this. But Rebecca, where can people find you if they've listened to this podcast now and they want to work with you, they want to pick your brain on a few things that they're struggling with in their business? Where should they go to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn pretty actively. So it's Rebecca Howse at LinkedIn. So REBECCAHOWSE. And I will be able to help you with most things, I'm sure, or at least put you in the right step to someone else that might be able to help. But yeah, definitely. I am always there to lend an ear.
Beautiful. We'll put the link. Yeah, or a Zoom or a Skype, but we'll put the we'll put the links in the show notes below. But Rebecca, amazing to have you here, and to all of my incredible listeners, I really hope you got a lot of takeaways and fantastic information out of this. I know I did. Wherever you are, have a beautiful day, and I will speak to you again soon. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Mind to Lead podcast. I really hope you got some great takeaways and key learnings from this episode. To help us spread the message, please give us a rating and leave us a review. We love reading your thoughts and your insights and your learnings. And look, reach out to me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Georgie Hubbard. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Georgie L. Hubbard. Let's connect. I hope you have an incredible day, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon.